What if the greatest lie you've ever been told is that it's noble to follow, that it's virtuous to obey, that the key to a good life is to stay in line, do what you're told, and never question the rules? From childhood, we are slowly conditioned to submit to authority teachers, parents, religious figures, bosses, political leaders. We're praised for compliance and punished for defiance. But Friedrich Nietzsche saw this system for what it truly is, a machine designed to suppress the individual, to crush the will, and to turn raw human potential into domesticated obedience. He didn't want you to be good. He wanted you to be great. And greatness, he believed, can never come from following it, must be forged in rebellion, in solitude, and in the terrifying freedom of self-creation. Nietzsche's philosophy is not about being loud or reckless, but about being sovereign. He believed that most people live as members of the herd, unconsciously adopting the morals and values of the majority. We think we're making choices, but often we're just reenacting the scripts handed to us by culture. What job to take, what success looks like, what's appropriate to believe or say, these aren't really ours. We didn't choose them, we inherited them. And Nietzsche found that horrifying. To him, nothing was more tragic than a person who never became themselves. That's why he introduced the concept of the Ubermensch, not a superhero, but a person who transcends the herd, who creates their own values, who writes their own destiny. The Ubermensch doesn't ask for meaning. He becomes it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But here's the hard truth Nietzsche throws in our face. Freedom is not comfortable. It's not easy. It's not safe. In fact, real freedom is terrifying. Because once you stop blaming society, your parents, your past, or your circumstances, you are left with one inescapable fact: you are responsible. Responsible for your choices, your beliefs, your outcomes. There's no one to follow, no one to validate you, no one to rescue you. And this is where most people turn back. They shrink. They choose the herd, not because they love it, but because it protects them from the unbearable weight of their own potential. It's easier to complain than to create, easier to follow than to lead. But make no mistake, every time you avoid responsibility, you give away your power. Nietzsche challenges us to do something radical, to become who we truly are. Not who we were told to be, not who others expect us to be, but who we are when we strip away the masks. This process, what Nietzsche called self-overcoming, isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong battle. It's waking up every day and refusing to be ruled by fear, by comfort, by tradition, by the easy path. It's asking yourself brutal questions. What values am I living by that I never questioned? What dreams are mine, and which ones were installed in me by someone else? Am I living a life of my own design, or am I just a well-behaved echo of someone else's expectations? These questions hurt, but they are the beginning of power. Because in the space where old beliefs die, new strength is born. So I ask you now, not as a philosopher, but as another human being struggling with the same chaos, are you ready to stop following? Not just in theory, but in practice. Are you ready to stop waiting for instructions, for permission, for applause? Are you ready to disappoint those who want you to stay small? Because leadership, real leadership, isn't about titles or followers. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need external validation to act. Someone who creates their own meaning in a meaningless world. Someone who rises not because they were chosen, but because they chose themselves. Nietzsche didn't want followers. He wanted creators. And the question that now burns in front of you is this: will you be one? If you've made it this far, then part of you already knows the truth. You were not born to kneel. You were not born to conform, to obey, to live out someone else's idea of a good life. Nietzsche believed that each of us contains within us a raw, untamed force, what he called the will to power, a deep, primal drive not merely to survive, but to become, to evolve, to rise above. This will is not about domination over others, as it's often misrepresented. It's about mastering yourself. It's about shaping the chaos within you into something beautiful, something terrifying, something entirely yours. The will to power is not about being the best, it's about being authentic, no matter what. And that kind of authenticity, the unfiltered expression of your true self, is the rarest and most dangerous form of power in the world. Think about this. How many of your decisions are made to avoid rejection? How many times have you silenced yourself to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to stay liked? Nietzsche would say that every time we do this, we betray ourselves. Every time we bend our truth to fit into someone else's mold, we kill something sacred inside us. He wasn't advocating for rudeness or chaos, but for courage. The kind of courage that says, "This is who I am. This is my vision, and I will not apologize for existing differently than you expect." That's not arrogance, that's leadership. That's spiritual independence. And in a world obsessed with conformity, it's revolutionary. But let's be brutally honest, becoming this kind of person is incredibly hard. Because the world will push back. The herd doesn't like individuals who rise. The moment you stop following, people will question you. They'll shame you, mock you, call you selfish, arrogant, insane. Why? Because your freedom threatens their comfort, and your authenticity forces them to confront their own obedience. And most people don't want to face that, so they attack what they don't understand. But Nietzsche invites us to see this backlash not as a sign to retreat, but as confirmation that we're on the right path. He wrote, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist." That's the voice of someone who has stepped outside the herd and never looked back. So how do you begin? How do you actually stop following and start leading in your real day-to-day life? Nietzsche would say, begin by destroying illusions. Start asking questions that make you uncomfortable. Why do you believe what you believe? Who gave you your values? Your religion? Your definition of success? Your political views? Examine them not as sacred truths, but as inherited structures. Then ruthlessly discard what no longer serves your deepest self. This is the work of the philosopher, not to accumulate knowledge, but to unlearn lies. And once the ground is clear, begin building. Create your own code. Define your own meaning. Not once, but every day. Because the will to power isn't a destination. It's a practice, a fire you keep alive through action, through choice, through relentless honesty. And here's where it all comes together. Nietzsche didn't want you to follow him either. He didn't want disciples. He wanted you to become your own philosopher, your own creator, your own leader. He wanted you to look at your life and say, "This is mine. I chose this. I forged this." That's what he meant when he said, "Become who you are." Because who you truly are is not a role, not an identity, not a label. Who you truly are is a becoming, a force, a flame. And the moment you stop waiting for someone else to light it for you, that's the moment you become unstoppable. So now, I'll leave you with one final question, and I want you to sit with this. Write it down, stare at it until it burns. If I stopped following today, what would I dare to become? Don't rush to answer. Let it haunt you. Let it push you. Because in that question lies the gateway to your true power. And if you have the courage to walk through it, to disappoint the herd, to lead your own life, to become who you were meant to be, then Nietzsche's secret is no longer a secret. It's alive in you. And that, my friend, is the beginning of freedom. Let's not pretend this path is easy. Choosing to lead your life with Nietzsche's fire means choosing a kind of inner exile. You're no longer sheltered by the comfort of common opinion. You can't hide behind groupthink or institutions. You have to think for yourself, act for yourself, and suffer the consequences of your freedom. That's the deal. That's the price of power. But here's the paradox Nietzsche saw so clearly. In that suffering, in that solitude, something sacred is born. You become real, not just socially accepted, not just successful in a way others understand, but real as in, you are no longer a copy of anyone else. You are your own origin. The pain of becoming is the labor of the soul giving birth to itself. This is why Nietzsche saw suffering not as something to be avoided, but as something to be transformed. He wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That's not just poetic. That's a map. The chaos is your raw material, your doubts, your contradictions, your fears. But instead of running from them, you shape them, mold them, use them. You forge meaning where there was none. That's what a leader does. That's what the Ubermensch does. They don't escape life's heaviness, they carry it with grace. They don't wait for the world to give them direction, they create the direction. And in doing so, they don't just liberate themselves, they blaze a trail others didn't even know was possible. Now, let's put this into something practical. If you want to lead your life as Nietzsche intended, start by choosing one area where you've been passive. Maybe it's your career. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your self-worth. Identify it, own it, and then challenge it. Ask, what would it look like to stop waiting and start acting? Could you walk away from something safe but dead? Could you build something that's never been built before? Could you speak a truth that costs you comfort, but wins you your soul? This is not about flashy rebellion. It's about deep integrity. To do what's right for you, even if no one else understands it, but even if it costs you approval, especially if it costs you approval. Because approval is the currency of the herd. The leader's currency is authenticity. And when you start spending that currency, when you start living in alignment with your own truth, you begin to radiate something different. People will feel it. Some will resist it. Others will be awakened by it. But either way, you stop being invisible. You stop being just another follower. You become a signal, a disruption. a living example of what it means to live without apology. And that might be the most powerful thing any of us can do, not just for ourselves, but for the world. Because every time one person rises out of obedience into sovereignty, they make it easier for others to do the same. So I ask you, one final time, not as a challenge, but as a calling, what would your life look like if you stopped following completely? Not halfway, not when it's convenient, but at every level. What would you build? What would you destroy? What would you finally say out loud, not to be heard but because it's true? That's the life Nietzsche dared us to live, not a life of comfort, but one of power. Not a life of obedience, but one of creation. Not a life of following, but of becoming. The question is no longer whether you're capable. You are. The question is, will you choose it? Because no one is coming to give you permission. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to lead you.